Greetings to one and all, peace and love, you know, overstanding, to everyone out there, For when we seek, we find, So we must seek, knocking it shall be open, you know. So everything that we have in life, we must give thanks for, and you know what I mean. And even if we don't have much, we still must give thanks because there's someone who always have less than us. So we always have to give thanks, you know what I mean? So that's very important, Well, I just came today to do a little presentation, some of the stuff that I've been researching for a couple of years now, like 3 or 4 years now, you can say, so, and I've come to the understanding that that we have been brainwashed, and a lot of people in the earth today, don't understand life and don't know what life is for and the true purpose, So we gotta know why we gotta understand why we are here, We not just only know why we are here, because understanding is everything, or overstanding, So at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to: overstanding, the reason why we are here, the purpose, of life, and just overstanding life in general, interacting with nature, and just living, because a lot of people are existing today, they're not living, they're really not living, So, and if it's a difference, when you begin to live and you stop existing, come out of the mind confusion and mind control, because it's heavy upon mankind. The brainwashing is so heavy that when you tell people the truth, they get upset and angry with you, yeah, they don't want to hear the truth. They want you to agree with them even though what they are doing is wrong, so they want you to agree with them, so my brothers and sisters, the one them that have a pure heart and a pure spirit, don't walk in their counsels. Blessed are those who walk not in the counsel of the ungodly. So that's very important, Psalm 1 verse 1, so we must not walk with the wicked, or we must show them where they are, where the error at, So we must stand firm and know why we are here and understand why we are here. For the earth is the battlefield, and we are in the middle, So this is why we got to understand who we are as human being, as mankind. We more than flesh and blood. We are spiritual beings, So religion has destroyed spirituality. It's not about religion, but the Bible is very, very important and very necessary to us, The Bible is very, very important and essential to us. So we must read the Bible and study the Bible and hold the Bible with high reverence, because there's plenty of things in there to be learned, and there's prophecy that has been fulfilled, and still being fulfilled at this present time. So we are living in that end time, as they would call it, but not necessarily the world is going to end, but it's just going to be a rooting, a rooting up of wickedness, at this trying, a lot of people being killed, as we can see right about now at this present time. A lot of people being slain slow because of what? Because of sin, we transgress the commandments. So we have transgressed the commandments, so evil as make it we make it very easy for evil to enter our realm, because we can become like God, or we can become, become like the devil, So this is why we got to understand spirituality, It's very, very important to understand spirituality and understand that we are in war. We every day that we rise up, that we are blessed and we are granted that granted another day. We always we in war, So that's why we got to be aware of everything that is happening around us. Energy. Always go off with energy. If you feel the energy is bad, and that's what it is. Always go off of energy, because like I said, it's spiritual warfare, and you listen to what people say, and then you would know, you know what I mean, how they really feel about you. You know, you would hear the things that they say, if they genuinely love and care for you, or care, you know what I mean, or care for themselves. You know, so at the end of the day, you gotta listen. This is why God give us 2 ears and 2 eyes and 1 mouth. You know what I mean? So we look and we see more, and we listen more, and we talk less. So that's very important to understand in this time, in this age. You know, so staying focused and staying positive is very, very necessary, because there's no end to positiveness, to righteousness. There's no end to doing, you know what I mean, to doing what is right. There's no end to that. You know, you only can get better onto perfection, right? But when you begin to do wrong things and do the negative things, then of course there's going to be end and consequences, you know, behind that, and it's not good consequences. Obviously it is bad, you know, because it's consequences. So, you know, what we sow, you know what I mean, that's what we're going to reap. But whatever energy we put off into the universe, that's what we're going to get back. So that's something that we need to understand in this life, in this time, you know. So we must stay focused and stay positive always, you know. So, you know, in this day, in this time, you know what I mean, we must get real and begin to, you know what I mean, look for God, if we say that there is a God, you know. And when you begin to seek, you know what I mean, you begin to find a whole lot of things, and you begin to come up on the truth, and you begin to realize that, you know, the whole world, everybody in the earth has been lied to and been brainwashed, you know. So we must begin to now to, you know what I mean, move away all of these obstacles that they put in front of our way, and begin to, you know what I mean, just focus on learning truth and learning what is right, you know. And so, you know, the Bible is definitely a guide, and, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? The Bible is definitely a book that, where you can learn good morals, you know, and you can learn a lot of things from the scriptures. You can learn a lot of things from the scriptures, for, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I'm gonna go back as, you know what I mean, 1892. That's when King Selassie was born, 1892, July 23rd, 1892. You know, unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, you know. And so we must be able to overstand prophecy, because there's a lot of prophetic stuff that is written in the scriptures, is being revealed. And because we don't read or study the Bible, we cannot see, you know what I mean, these things manifesting in this time. So, and also too, there's a lot of false doctrine being preached. There's a lot of false preachers. There's a lot of false pastors. There's a lot of false everything out there. So you got to be careful in you know what I mean, and who you're listening to and what you're listening to, and you also got to know what you're listening for and what you're looking for, you know. So it's a within thing. Don't just listen because it makes you feel high or whatever the case may be. Yeah, it sounds good, but is it sound doctrine? Is it the rightful doctrine that the person is preaching, even though it sounds good? And you know, some of the things is right. I'm not saying everything that they say is wrong, but just you know, listen and be, you know, and read for yourself. Don't only just listen, you know. That's important, you know. And one thing a lot of these pastors don't do in these mega churches and all these other churches, a lot of them don't do it, you know what I mean. They don't encourage the people very often to what? To read and to study for themselves, you know. That's very important. My people, read and study for yourself. You do your own research, so that way you can find out the truth for yourself. Don't only just listen to one person or two person and say, well, yeah, that's the truth, you know what I mean. You gotta be able to, you know what I mean, look for things for yourself, so that way you would be able to have the truth for yourself, and you could know, so nobody can tell you, well, this is it. You know, well, alright, you know, I've done my research, I've done my reading, so you know for certain that this is what it is, you know. So that's very important, you know. And so, you know what I mean, King Selassie Queen Menen is very, very important to us in this time, and this is why we need to understand that. This is why Ethiopia, you know what I mean, was never colonized and will not be colonized, right? Because why? The Bible talks about the Ark of the Covenant. wherever the Ark of the Covenant is, that's where the Most High Jah Rastafari is. That's where the Most High God is, right? And to those who overstand Bible and, you know what I mean, and follow, you know what I mean, read right through, you know what I mean, line upon line, precept upon precepts, line upon line, here a little, there a little, you know what I mean. So you gotta read consistently, line upon line, you know what I mean, read to overstand and ask for the overstanding. So that's very important, you know what I mean. He or she that asks receive, you know what I mean. So we must ask, you know, and we must ask out of a pure heart, with an open heart and an open mind, you know. So, you know, when you read, you get to see that, you know what I mean, wherever the Ark of the Covenant is, that's where God is, you know what I mean. So Ethiopia is where the Ark of the Covenant is, right? This is why, you know, in 1936, 1935, right? Around there, Mussolini invade Ethiopia, right? And so, and even in 1896, they invaded Ethiopia when Menelik II sit upon the throne, you know, the King of Kings, you know what I mean, and defend Ethiopia. Because why? That's where the Davidic throne is. That's where God is. And wherever the Ark of the Covenant is, that's where the Most High dwelleth. Even though the Most High governed the whole earth and the universe and everything, but the Most High, that's where He dwelleth, in that land. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that we must overstand. This is why spirituality is very important, you know what I mean? And you can even see it in the hieroglyphs, right? In ancient Kemet. This is why, you know, our ancestors leave stuff for us to look at. This is why, you know what I mean, we got to overstand Egypt and don't see Egypt as something negative. It's only because ones came and, you know what I mean, take over and conquer it, you know what I mean? They conquer it, you know what I mean, in whatever time, you know, in whatever time they conquer it in those time, you know, because, you know, and that's how things begin to really fall apart, you know, because after wicked forces come in, you know what I mean, certain things has been changed, and, you know what I mean, they try to rewrite themselves in what our ancestors have already created and established. Because, you know what I mean, you know, that's where everything began, you know what I mean, in ancient Kemet. That's where civilization and everything was like, you know what I mean, everything was perfect, you know. They was living better than us today in the way that we live in. They was living way better in the ancient times. So you had nobody running around with naked clothes, and as how they portray it and how they make it seems, you know what I mean. No, we was, you know what I mean, we invented everything that you see here today, you know what I mean. The black kings and the black queens, you know. So at the end of the day, that's the overstanding that we must have, because you have a lot of ones say, well, oh, you know what I mean, they get the Bible from the hieroglyph. Yeah, of course, you know what I mean, there's no doubt, you know what I mean. But you still can't downplay the Bible, because there's a lot of principles that we can use from the Bible. And you know, I'm gonna say this now, and you know what I mean, and this is very, very true. A lot of people quote Bible scriptures and sometimes don't even realize it, you know what I mean. So, you know what I mean, a lot of words that we use and a lot of things that we say, when you come to the scriptures, you could find it in there, you know what I mean. So at the end of the day, you know, they could say whatever they want to say with the Bible, but King Selassie, yes, my God and my King, you know what I mean, the God of the universe, King Selassie, you know what I mean, earth's rightful ruler, Queen Menen, you know, the balance of the earth rightful ruler. So, you know, that's something that we must overstand. And, you know, the Most High Divine Being, King Selassie, came in glory in the Bible. So, and as long as I say praising His Majesty and following in His Majesty, I must glory in the Bible, right? I must glory in the Bible. So, you know what I mean? I glory as I and I Heavenly Father glory in the Bible. So that's very important, you know, and you know what I mean? So that's why we must overstand. That's why Ethiopia hasn't been colonized. And the Bible is basically speaking of, you know, Africa. Whenever you read, you know what I mean, the Bible is speaking of Africa, right? It talks about the promised land. You know, when you read the scriptures, you can always see it's a land. You know, God always promised the children of Israel land, right? He always promised them a land flowing with what? Milk and honey, right? And that's the land of Africa. So that's why one thing, when you read the Bible, you gotta go do research and look up certain words, and you know what I mean, and find geographically where all of these things has taken place, because the Bible is also a history book. So historically, you know what I mean, when you look, you can see that is on the continent of Africa, you know, all of these things have taken place. So this is why a lot of places in Africa are desolate and they become desert, and you know, nobody don't live there, because why? You know, it was good before. Yeah, it was good before, but evil forces came and infiltrated. So you know, it becomes, you know what I mean, just destroy it and have nobody to live there, and it become desert, and you know what I mean, wild beasts and everything that you could think about, you know what I mean, walk about there, you know what I mean. So this is why a lot of places in Africa, you know what I mean, you know, certain parts you go, you know what I mean, it's destroyed. And even not even just in Africa, certain parts of the world you go, it's just destroyed and desolate. Because why? There was a violation. There's a violation that took place, and God dealt with it in the way that, you know what I mean, that he best deal with things, because you know, he's the ultimate leader, the most high divine creator, King Selassie. And like I said, it's about spirituality, you know what I mean. So at the end of the day, when we become wicked and sinful to the Most High, as the Bible reveals, and as you can see throughout the Bible speaks of, you know what I mean, people being sinful and wicked. And what happened to when people be sinful and wicked and begin to transgress the Most High commandments? You know, they bring judgment upon themselves, they bring judgment upon the earth, they bring judgment, you know what I mean, you know, upon the whole earth. So this is what is happening right about now in this present time. When the more wicked we become, the more judgment, you know what I mean, the more judgment is being is being brought down on us, as we can see in the earth. This is why there's so much killing. This is why, you know what I mean, there's so much people missing. This is why babies is being killed and raped and victimized, and you know what I mean, people are homeless, you know what I mean, people are dying in accident, alcohol, depression, drug use. This is very high. It is very, very high. And you know, we ought to pay attention to these things. And you know, I really feel like a lot of us is sleeping, and I think we too deep, we into deep sleeping, you know what I mean, because we be focusing on the wrong things. You know, now it's time to get serious and begin to face reality, because eventually, if we don't face reality, then what? You know, it's gonna blow up like an atomic bomb, you know. And that's exactly what's happening, because a lot of people turn away. You know, they don't want to correct their wrongs. They don't want to say sorry. They don't want to apologize. You know what I mean? So this is why we have all of these things. You know, everybody want to be wrong and strong. Nobody wants to be corrected. Everybody wants to be right. You know, nobody want to admit that they are wrong. So this is why we have all this confusion, you know, and chaos in earth, because people are unrighteous, they're untrustworthy, they're unloving, they're unkind. You know what I mean? You know, they are disloyal. You know, they have no love within them. You know? And so, and nevertheless, you know what I mean, even though they do bad, they still do some good. You know what I mean? So you can see that, you know, there's good and bad in all of us. But how bad is that bad? You know, that's why the scripture reveal, you know what I'm saying? You know, there's light and darkness in us. You know what I mean? If it's darkness, then how great is that darkness? So that's why we must understand. That's why there's a balance. And I'm not saying that we must do bad. No, I'm not saying that. Neither is the scripture saying that we should do bad, because God only created us to do good. You know what I mean? So that's why we must always practice good, so we can become perfect as our heavenly Father is perfect. You know, perfection is humanity, you know what I mean, greatest power, when we become perfect in all our ways. And ones may say, well, oh, that's impossible. Christ did it. Christ is an example to us. Nothing is impossible. This is what it means. This is what it means when it says mankind are falling out, are falling, right? Are fallen, and fallen means mankind are fallen, which means that we are falling out of our heaven and our living standard and the way that we used to live. That's what it means, mankind has fallen. Check the living standard. Check the things that we do and say, and how we treat each other, how we speak to each other, right? So this is why we need to be mindful of everything that we do and say, especially around the little children, right? And a lot of ones don't understand how important is the little children. But don't worry, they will see in due time how important is the little children. We must love them and care for them and serve them. Be a servant. Be a servant to them. Right? Be a servant to them. Show them respect. Show them love. Show them kindness. So that way they could know and understand and feel what these things feel like. So that way when they get big and they get old, they would have it. But if you're gonna scream at them and yell at them, you know what I mean, beat them when it's not necessary and all of these things, and you know what I mean, lie to them, then you're destroying them. You know what I mean? You're destroying them. So, you know, we must be mindful of what we say and do around our children. So that's very important, you know. But back to the, you know what I mean, back to the King of Kings and the Queens of Queens, you know. When you study the Bible, you find the truth. You begin to see things and you begin to see how it line up with world events that happened in the past, and I'm just, you know what I mean, and I'm talking recently, you know, because first of all, you know what I mean, you got to read the scriptures and read. When you study 1st and 2nd Samuel, right, that's where God chose David, right? He rejects Saul because Saul didn't carry out his commands. So he rejects Saul, and Saul was from the tribe of Benjamin, right? So he rejects Saul, right? And chose David, which is what? The lineage. He's from the tribe of Judah. So Judah is David, a Lionheart, right? And that's why I say, you know, we need to focus on David because God chose specifically David, right? To be ruler of over all the tribes, right? So David is the head, and when you read the scriptures, of all the nations, right? Everybody have to come and bow before David, because why? God is with David. That's where the Ark of the Covenant, that's where the Ark of the Covenant is with the children, you know what I mean, the tribe of Judah, right? Even though the Levites have to is the one responsible for the Ark of the Covenant, right? Judah is the head tribe, right? That also controls the Ark, right? So that's something that we need to understand. So when you read and you study the scriptures, right, and you come up, you know what I mean, the 1st and 2nd Samuel, as I mentioned before, you get to see God chose David, you know what I mean, to be ruler. You know what I mean? This is why Saul was angry and vexed and wanted to kill David, right? Because you get to recognize that's it. The Most High took his spirit from him, took his spirit from him, and you know what I mean. He went and he chose David, you know. And the promise, you know, and that's very important. When you read, you must understand, you know, there's a promise that made to David. The promise is that, you know what I mean, and that's in 2 Samuel chapter 7 verses 12 to 17. I'm just looking at my notes. Actually, I'm looking at the Bible actually, right? You know, so that's chapter 7, 2 Samuel chapter 7 verse 12 to 17, where the Most High make the promise to David, and the promise was that his seed would always sit upon his throne, right? So that's the promise, that's the everlasting promise, everlasting covenant that the Most High has made with David. So we need to pay attention to that. And as you can see, and you can trace the lineage, right? When you trace the lineage, come up, you know what I mean, and you read Kings and you come up, you know what I mean, and you begin to trace the lineage up until, you know what I mean, up until our present time, so to speak. Let's fast forward now, because history is a whole lot of stuff, you know what I mean, that you gotta go through, and you gotta, you know what I mean. So, you know what I mean, up until our present time, or let's not even our time, but before our time, but you can say, you know what I mean, in our time, because this is stuff that we can see on TV. This is stuff that was you know what I mean, was recorded, was been documented, you know what I mean. So you know what I mean, the early 1900s, you know what I mean. So alright, you know what I mean, because King Selassie was born 1892, July 23rd, as I mentioned earlier. right? King Selassie was born, His Majesty was born 1892, July 23rd, right? So fast forwarding, you know what I mean? Fast forwarding to 1930, when the King of Kings, right, was crowned, Negos Negas, right? King of Kings, Lord of Lords, the conquering line of the tribe of Judah, right? So this is why we need to understand who His Majesty is, and why, who His Majesty and Her Majesty is, and why we need to get to know them, because they are Heavenly Father and their Heavenly Mother, also our earthly Father and earthly Mother. This is why in Genesis, you know what I mean, in the very first chapter in creation, when God said, let's make man in our own image, right? A lot of people got their own conclusion or their own speculation or their own thing wherever they go by, right? But the most simplest way that we make woman is a man have to plant the seed within the woman, right? So, which means that it has to be male and female in order for a child to come forth. So when God said, let's make man in our own image, God was speaking to His wife, right? And also the key word there we must listen to, let's make man in our image, right? Our, right? It's plural, and it says image, right? So which means God is a living man and a living woman. So that's why you got to read with understanding and ask the Lord to show you, so that way He would reveal the truth for you. You know what I mean? So this is His Majesty and Her Majesty right here. As you can see, the royalty, right? Look at that, splendid. You know what I mean? Look how they look, man. You know, this is Earth's rightful ruler. This is our king and our queen that we have to bow to and give homage to, because why? They are worthy to be praised. They save us, right? When evil force rise against us and try to put us all in chains and shackles, they free us, right? They save the whole world. Because if Ethiopia had been colonized, then the whole earth would have been under subjection, right? And that's they want the one world, new world order, one world government, and that's what they are pushing for right now. And that's why His Majesty came and His Majesty and Her Majesty came and save us from. So that's one thing that we need to understand, right? You know what I mean? Here's another picture right here of His Majesty visiting JFK, right? They haven't taught us this in school, right? Why haven't they taught us this in school? All that's history. All of these stuff we should be knowing about, right? JFK is about the last real president that we had in America, right? Every other president was just a puppet. This is why they slayed JFK and they killed him the way they did, right? Because he was real. His Majesty came and told him and warned him, and you know what I mean? And there is documentaries, you know, just go pull it up, man. You know, the stuff is there, you know what I mean? There's videos, there's even videos where you can see where His Majesty, you know what I mean, and JFK, right? And JFK is there introducing making an introduction for His Majesty, and JFK speak very highly of His Majesty. You know what I mean? So that's one thing that we need to recognize and realize, that, you know what I mean, they haven't taught us nothing like that in school about His Majesty came and visited JFK. Why? So that's something that we need to understand. Why haven't we learned about King Selassie? Why haven't they speak about King Selassie? King Selassie is so very necessary to us. Why haven't we learned about him in history? Because that's part of our history. So this is why we need to do research and our own reading and study, you know? Yeah. Here is another picture of our, you know what I mean, king and queen, you know? You see people paying homage to them and bowing to them, giving them flowers, you know what I mean? That's the throne of David, right? That's the throne of David that is written up in the Bible, in your Bible that you read daily, that you don't properly understand, right? This is the fulfillment of prophecy, right? This is the fulfillment of prophecy. The king and queen sit upon the throne of David, right? So this is why we need to overstand, you know what I mean, the time that we are living in. Here's another picture of His Majesty, right? In his coronation outfit, in his coronation attire, right? That's the triple crown right there His Majesty is wearing, right? The King of all kings, right? Our King and God. Look at that. Look at the royalty, you know? This is something that we need to understand and pay attention to, right? Just look at the royalty. Look at His Majesty. Look how splendid he look, right? Christ in his kingly character, as Garnick Silk tell us, behold, Christ in his kingly character. Behold, right? Christ in his kingly character. So this is why we need to pay attention of the signs of the time. This is why we need to know His Majesty and Her Majesty, for they are Earth's rightful ruler, right? Here's another picture of His Majesty, royalty, right? Only the King of Kings can sit on throne, right? Damien Jr. Gang Marley don't tell us only the King of Kings can sit on throne, right? I Heavenly Father, right? Tell me I don't look like His Majesty, right? Just look, you know what I mean? He may not have locks, you know what I mean? But he have the fro and he have the beard. So, you know, this is what this is about, you know what I mean? So 72 nation has come and bow, right? Psalms 72, right? Read Psalms 72. 72 nation has come and bow before His Majesty, right? When you study the scriptures, right? Psalms 72, right? Must read and study Psalm 72 and then go do research in His Majesty and see how many nations came and bowed before Him, right? So to ones and ones who keep on talking a whole lot of foolishness, and people out there who are praising the wrong kings and the wrong queens, praising the wrong king and the wrong queen, right? Look at who is bowing to His Majesty, right? Look how they have to bow to His Majesty, right? The king, right? And the you know what I mean? The king and queen of England, right? The queen have to bow before His Majesty. Just look at that, right? So this is why we need to understand the times that we are living in, right? This is why we need to understand the times that we are living in. We need to understand who the true king is and give Him the glory due His name, right? His Majesty is worthy to be praised. Just look, you know what I mean? A picture's worth 1,000 words. When you look closely, you see it, right? You can see, you know what I mean, that they're evil too. You can see it in their face. Just look at their faces. You can see the demons and the evil in their face, and His Majesty just smiling at them, and they have to bow their head. They can't even look His Majesty in the eye because they know what time it is, right? It's time for wickedness to cease, because Rastafari came and defeat them and conquer them, right? When they betray Him, they sell Him out at the League of Nations. This is why we need to understand what the League of Nations is, and they make it into the United Nations, because it was called the League of Nations back then. Collective security, whereby, you know, it wouldn't, you know what I mean? They wouldn't allow one country to gobble up another country, you know what I mean? So that way, you know, they can have peace within the world, right? So that's what the League of Nations was in those times, so that they could have peace within the world. Now it's called the UN, United Nations. They keep the peace in the world, so that way, you know what I mean, wherever there's tension and wherever there's, you know what I mean, strife going on, you know what I mean, they're going to keep the peace. But guess what? His Majesty, that's why he was traveling so much countries, going to so much countries and islands, you know what I mean, just going to countries and just traveling the earth in general, going to different places, because he was making peace, you know what I mean, and so on and so forth, you know what I mean. Here's another picture of His Majesty sitting upon His throne. Here is one of His angels bowing to Him, right, paying Him homage and respect, because why? The King of Kings is worthy to be praised. The King of Kings is worthy to be praised. Emperor Haile Selassie I is worthy to be praised, right? You know what I mean? I'm pleading with you, my brothers and sisters. You know, I'm pleading with you. Please do some research on King Selassie and Queen Menen, you know what I mean, on Ethiopia. You know what I mean? Here is another royal picture of our queen, our heavenly mother in her splendid, in her glory, right? This is our coronation outfit, you know what I mean? This is our coronation attire, right? This is Queen Menin, our heavenly mother, right? Heavenly mother and earthly mother, right? So we must overstand spirituality, right? Because our temple cannot be moved without the spirit. The spirit have to be inside of it for it to function, right? So this is why, like the spirit without the body is dead. You know, the body without the spirit is dead, right? So that's why the body must have the spirit. Because if there's no spirit in the body, then the body is dead, right? So this is why you must overstand spirituality, and this is why ones on ones don't overstand, you know, and they don't say what they say. Well, oh, King Selassie is not God. First, you gotta overstand spirituality. You're looking at the temple, you know what I mean? Just look at the works. Look at the great works His Majesty has done, right? Look at our Heavenly Father and Heavenly Mother. Look at the way that they are looking at them, right? Right? This time there's no smile. This is serious business, and that's the Queen of England, right? And I think that's the king or whoever you know what I mean. Whoever that man is, or you know, that evil force is, they have to bow before His Majesty, right? And Her Majesty. So as you can see, right? Just look at it, right? You see what's going on there? Pictures worth 1,000 words. So this is why, you know, Ethiopia and understanding, you know what I mean, what really took place, you know, in 1936, you know what I mean, because 1930 His Majesty was crowned. You know what I mean? The King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. Both him and Her Majesty was crowned, right? So there's a balance, right? The King and the Queen was crowned at the same time, and that hasn't been done in a long time in Ethiopia. And you know what I mean? So His Majesty came and set the order, you know what I mean, and set the standard. And His Majesty is a perfect man. His Majesty never sinned. His Majesty is a perfect man, right? So this is why we need to understand, you know what I mean, who His Majesty and Her Majesty is. Her Majesty is also a perfect woman, you know what I mean. So this is why we need to understand scriptures, you know, and follow, you know what I mean, sound doctrine. Don't listen to false prophet, right? I'm no liar. I'm not here to lie to you, my brothers and sisters, right? But there's people out there who are lying to you. So, you know what I mean? If you continue to choose to listen to the liars, then that's what you choose. But remember that, you know, there's people out there who is bringing forth the truth for y'all to hear and y'all to see. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, you know, just go do some research on His Majesty and study the scriptures. And you can read those scriptures that I've mentioned. You know what I mean? And, you know what I mean? Maybe you'll be able to see it. But like I said, it's not easy. You got to do a lot of research. You got to do a lot of reading in the scriptures, because the Bible is very, very important. It's very, very necessary, right? Here's another picture of His Majesty, right? And that's His son, right? Right there, sitting right next to him, right? And his grandchildren, right? And you can see, just look at the throne, look at the royalty. Right? Gold, right? Just look at the royalty. His Majesty, the King of all kings, right? So this is why His Majesty, right, is worthy to be praised, right? For that's the throne of David that His Majesty sit upon. So this is why when ones and ones come talk about David and the great King David, you gotta look in the scriptures and also look in history to see, you know what I mean, the lineage. You know what I mean? Then you will be able to find the truth. Then you'll be able to connect scriptures with what's happening right now. Because the Bible, you know, is a history book. Also, you know what I mean? The Bible teaches us where mankind come from, as Bob said, without any prejudice. Right? So, you know what I mean? The Bible shows us where mankind come from and where everything has been developed. You know what I mean? And like I mentioned, you know, Kemet, you know, also we must study Kemet. You know, because the Bible is coming out of the hieroglyphs. You know, so this is why our ancestors leave stuff in Egypt. This is why, you know, it's good to travel and go those places. You know, and I would like to go those places. You know, but one day though, you know, one day I'll be able to make a trip to Africa. You know, visit I homeland. You know, yeah. Africa is the place to be. Africa is the future. Africa is our heaven, and Africa will rise again and be in the splendid that it once was in. Right? As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. So, you know, much love to one and all, my brothers and sisters, and to them who take the time out to watch the video. You know what I mean? Just, I encourage everyone to read for themselves, to study for themselves. They don't have to believe in everything, you know what I mean, that I say, you know. So, you know what I mean, just do your own research, and I guarantee, you know, you will be able to see the truth for yourself as long as you're looking for it wholeheartedly. So blessed love, my brothers and sisters. Stay focused, stay positive, stay humble, be kind to one another. Love, love, love.